Well, factoring into today's video, we're going to have a look at weather next 8 to 10 days. In today's video, this takes us to the start of February, the 1st of February. It looks as though we're going to be seeing the weather staying westerly, really, through the final days of this month, through the final days of January. The winds will be staying in from the west, I think. Although we could get a little bit of a cold snap around next weekend, the last day or so of January into the start of February, could pull the winds down into the north. I don't think it'll last all that long, to be honest. The fundamental pattern for this winter is one of the Azores high being very, very strong, sitting just to the southwest of the country around Spain and Portugal. And as long as you've got a very strong Azores high, it's always going to be difficult to produce prolonged sort of locked-in cold weather. And whilst we may get this northerly next weekend, and it could get pretty cold again for a few days, I don't think we're seeing yet signs that we're breaking out of the Azores high as the big driver for this winter. We'll have a look at all the charts in a moment. Before I go on, that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on most of the pages at gaswebs.com. You have a browse through the widgets. You'll be able to see if there's any articles that you're interested in. If there is, just click through and you'll be able to go off and read those articles. Thanks very much for doing that. So this is perception and temperature so far for January 2015 from Hadley. This is provisional up to yesterday, the 21st of January, and you see that we're currently standing at 5.0, which is an anomaly of 1.4 degrees above average, so we're still quite a bit above average, although this has come down a lot in the last few days. It was much higher than this, over 1.5 degrees higher than this just a few days ago, so we've seen a bit of a plummet actually over the last few days. We're now just standing around 1.5 degrees above average. I think this will probably come down a bit more over the next day or two, and then probably pick up a little bit actually through next week. So we're probably going to finish up somewhere around 1 degree above average, I would guess, once we get through to the end of the month. It'll be interesting to see exactly where we do finish up. It will be significantly cooler, I think, than last January. Will be a cooler month than that exceptionally mild but exceptionally wet January that we had last year. At least getting a few frosts this year. It does feel a little bit more like a wintry winter. So these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF over on the left of the screen, but GFS is on the right. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. This takes us to the start of February, to the 1st of February, and red is extrapolating to high pressure, blue extrapolating to low pressure. What we see on both the ECM and the GFS is that we've got a deep trough coming back into the east and the northeast of the states again, through to the final days of January and the start of February. So again, another really cold plunge through central east parts of the states coming up by the end of January. Jet stream comes out into the Atlantic and then runs around the trough and the ridge, something like that. So we've got that deep trough of low pressure to the east. We've got this big ridge of high pressure around the Azores going up into the central part of the Atlantic like that. Now, if you see where the black line originates from, where it goes back to, it actually the air is actually originating from Newfoundland, from the south of Greenland, so it's not going to be overly warm really, and as this trough of low pressure sort of shifts eastwards, that's how we may pull down those winds into the north, between the ridge sitting out to west and the trough to the east. But the big point about this is that this ridge of high pressure sitting in the Atlantic is not really conducive to a locked-in cold pattern. So whilst we may sort of get a few days of northerly winds, it may get a bit cold again around the turn of the month. I don't think we're seeing a signal here to take this high pressure over towards Bermuda, somewhere over here, and then set up a lot of blocking around here, and that's what we have to do really to get a proper sort of blocked cold pattern. The GFS very similar. We've got this trough of low pressure sitting to the east of the country. The jet stream runs out with that cold air, enhancing the jet streams. We've got tight lines running across the Atlantic, and then the jet stream runs into the UK and then down around this trough into central and southern parts of Europe. Again, the ridge is sitting out in the Atlantic Ocean. The deep trough is sitting to the north and to the northeast of the country, and again, follow the ice bars back or follow the lines back. The air originates from the south of Greenland and from Canada, so it's not going to be overly warm, but not desperately cold. We're not talking about severe Arctic winds blasting in and being locked in with a position again of this high pressure. So that's the big picture really. The high pressure sits to the west, and as long as it's there, it's going to be difficult to maintain cold weather. Nevertheless, we can expect some colder interludes, as we've had really through this winter. This may be the pattern we carry on with through February, that we're generally in a mildish sort of winter, but with more cold patterns coming through at times, or more cold snaps coming through at times, I should say. So we're starting off a bit cold now on the GFS temperature and precipitation. So remember, the red line is the 30-year temperature average. We're a bit below average, or a bit colder than average at the moment. It's going to turn a bit milder through the end of the week, and then a bit colder again over the weekend, and then sort of we're going up and down with the temperatures a little bit. There's a lot of scatter within there. What's going on probably is that at times bringing warmer sectors through. At times we're probably bringing colder sectors through, so we're a bit up and down with the spaghetti there, but overall there's no real signal for it to be desperately cold or desperately mild, probably just hovering around the seasonal average. The precipitation spikes are not all that bad, really. It doesn't look like a particularly wet period. The high pressure is just to the southwest, so particularly for southern parts of the country, it means that the rainfall shouldn't be too intense, so no repeat of the floods that we had last year. We will bring precipitation through at times, as we can see from these spikes. They are there, but they're not too bad. So, yeah, it's going to be unsettled, but I don't think it's going to be desperately wet. The temperature anomaly for the 22nd of January to the 30th of January comes out around average, really. It's quite cold across France and down in Spain and Portugal. As we know, it has been cold for us as well. But we're coming back up towards the average over the coming week, and we may actually go a little bit above average with these charts over the next day or two, once we get out of this colder pattern that we're in at the moment, and we'll do that later on tomorrow. This probably will go a little bit warmer than average. The main body of the warmth, though, is over in the east and the southeast of Europe. A very warm scene over there, and given how warm it is in the east and the southeast, you would probably expect it to be colder than this in the northwest, because the weather is always looking for an equilibrium. So when one side of Europe is cold, you'll often find the other side being warm. In this case, it's warm in the east and the southeast, so you will probably expect it to be somewhat colder than this is, or has been, out in the west and the northwest of Europe. The precipitation anomaly from the 22nd to the 30th of January coming out a little bit drier than average, really, and that because the high pressure is very close. It's just down to the southwest, so the worst of the rain is to the north of the country. Nevertheless, we do bring some bands of rain through on this weather pattern. So here's the GFS temperature. This is the GFS generic chart, I should say, for Tuesday, the 27th of January. And we find the ridge of high pressure down to the southwest of the country, backs off towards the Azores, so that's the main driver of the weather in an Atlantic flow, although not overly warm. We go through to midweek, and again the high pressure is still to the southwest, bring the weather system through on Wednesday, so we probably take a band of rain across the country. It's relatively mild. We go through to Thursday the 29th, steady map westerly flow, and then through to Friday the 30th. This could be that little cold snap I was talking about. We may find the low pressure shifting eastwards, high pressure reaching a little bit more through the central Atlantic, could just force winds round into the northwest, and maybe even into the north. Is the chart for Saturday the 31st of January, last day of the month. And again, the trough of low pressure is through central parts here. It could turn quite cold there, with this trough digging through the ridge, going through the central part of the Atlantic, forcing winds into the north, so that could turn things a bit colder, and maybe even bring some snow through to northern and eastern parts of the country temporarily. But overall, again, the big picture is not changing. With 1,030 millibar of high pressure is still there around the Azores. As long as that's there, there's always, it's always probable that the winds will go back into the west and bring the milder air back off the Atlantic. So whilst on the 1st of February, certainly the 1st, we are in that northerly flow on day 10, and it is cold, we only need to go out another day or so to the 2nd of February, and the winds are backing into the west once again. And that's all because of that area of high pressure sitting there around the Azores as the main driver of the weather pattern. The East WF very similar. Here we are on Tuesday 27th, and high pressure down to the southwest, low pressure up to the north. We go through to Wednesday the 28th, probably bring some sort of weather system through that could bring some cloud and rain across the country. And then as we go out towards the end of next week, the East NWF makes a little bit more of this northerly. So on Thursday the 29th, we pull down this northwesterly flow, probably behind an active cold front, which could bring some outbreaks of quite heavy rain. And then we're pulling winds properly into the north as we go through to the 30th of January and on into the 1st of February. Yeah, real northerly there. The low pressure is troughing through the central part of Europe, going down into the central part of the Mediterranean. High pressure ridging in the Atlantic. And we've definitely got a proper northerly going on there. If you follow the isobars back, the air is originating from the central part of the Arctic. So that is a proper northerly blast coming through. Only temporary, because the high pressure again is around the Azores at 1,035 millibars. So within 24 hours, this little area of low pressure just here to the south of Greenland would roll over the top of the high pressure and down into the UK. Perhaps bring a snow event, but behind it the winds would go westerly and we'd reintroduce the Atlantic. As long as this high pressure is sitting there around the Azores this strongly, it's going to be hard to maintain cold weather for any length of time. Nevertheless, that is another cold snap, and it's a fairly potent cold snap there that we could get sometime around next weekend, around the start of February, the end of January, start of February. We could get quite a potent cold snap. Doubt it would last more than 2 or 3 days, but it would be noteworthy while it was going on. The bigger picture is that the Azores High is driving the weather at the moment. It has been through most of the winter. It looks like it's going to into the start of February. Whilst that's the case, cold snaps, yes, but prolonged, sort of locked-in severe cold weather remains very unlikely. We'll see how things pan out over the next few updates. Keep checking back for more. And that's it for now. Thanks for watching.